Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Mike Jesh, and I'm a Fast Team representative in the Long Beach FSDO. And tonight we're going to feature a webinar with a pilot briefing on the information you need to know if you're going to operate around the Southern California airspace over the weekend of September 29th to October 1st. And even if you're not planning on flying, if you just want to kind of peek behind the curtain a little bit and see what goes on in planning and preparing for an air show of this magnitude, I think you'll find this kind of an interesting talk tonight. So we're very glad that you joined us tonight. I will be showing a short video in just a moment here, but to start off, I'd like to introduce Nate Morrissey. He's the Fast Team Program Manager in the Long Beach FSDO, and he's the guy who roped me into hosting this thing tonight. So come on in, Nate. What do you have for us?
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the forum tonight. I want to thank Mike Jesh, who's one of our Fast Team lead reps, and he does an amazing job putting all this stuff together. But like Mike said, it's pretty fascinating, all the coordination that goes into it. But we're here to educate you on just what to expect over the next week or so with traffic management and stuff like that. And it's always one of the more attended and exciting events when the controllers and SoCal TRACON comes on. So I look forward to a fun, informative talk.
Sure. So let me start with a short video, a performer promotional video here. Listen in on this, and maybe we'll start getting your juices pumped to come on down to Huntington Beach here next weekend and see what we have to offer. Man, I got to get down there. That looks like fun. This is the Pacific Air Show is just about the, if not the biggest, it's one of the largest air shows west of the Mississippi River. And we're doing it here on the coast right between Long Beach and Orange County, which I don't need to tell you, this is in some of the most complex, busy airspace in the entire country, perhaps the entire world. So to try to put on an event like this in a location like this takes a tremendous amount of logistics, preparation, planning from a lot of different people, and we've got some of those people here tonight. So first of all, let me introduce Ken Ashmore, who's the Director of Airside Operations for the Air Show. Coming up, Ken, what do you have for us?
Oh yeah, this is quite a show this year, and I really appreciate Nate Morrissey here kicking this off with this, getting this going this evening, and for of course you, Mike, and Jared jumping in to help with this. Very much appreciate help get the word out about this show. Yeah, huge lineup this year, and you're talking about the what planning goes into this. It starts really about 2.5 years out, get all the invitations and all the requests that are required going out to the military teams and all to start putting this all together. And it just doesn't stop after that. It's just really nonstop. Um, all the way through. So you got quite a show to come out and see.
When do you ever sleep, Ken? You just got back
very
from Australia, didn't you? Do a version of the show in Australia?
Show in Australia, yeah, and yeah, that was a big, huge learning there, and a whole new group to have to learn all the regulations there with CASA and air services and those people. And by the way, Jared Gregg was helping getting us going there too. So no,
Well, and speaking of which, I would like to introduce now Jared Gregg. He is an air traffic controller with SoCal TRACON, and he is the ATC liaison for the show this year. Coming in, Jared, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you do this job you do.
All right. Well, thanks for the intro, Mike and Ken. Thanks for being here, Nate. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the local pilots out there. I'm a local pilot myself. I understand a lot of times When you don't see behind the curtain, all you see is the impact that it has in your flying, and we're here to let you know it's worth it. And it's a couple of days just to be a little bit careful. We'll talk about some procedures and stuff to get you where you're going and get you flying, even though there's a TFR in the area. One of the differences with this kind of an air show is that it's not at an airport. So from ATC's perspective, we have to get all the performers to the air show box from local airports and on time. And that's a pretty big undertaking for ATC. So a lot of the effects that you guys are going to feel as GA pilots is not just that there's a big chunk of airspace that you now can't use during those times, but also that the procedures at the local airports are going to change slightly, and it might be a little more difficult getting in and out. And that's the only way we can guarantee that the show goes off without a hitch. So eventually we'll go through those procedures, I assume. Like, a little history on myself: I've been a controller for about 15 years. I started in Roswell, New Mexico. Now I'm in charge of training at SoCal TRACON for my area, and I've been the liaison for this air show for about 5 years, developing the procedures that we're going to use on the ATC side to keep everybody out of that TFR and make sure everything happens the way it's supposed to.
You know, Mike, if I can interrupt real quick, I'm glad Jared said he's been involved for so long, because Rob Reddick always tries to take all the credit. So I'm glad the truth now finally comes out.
You're not wrong about that. Right? And Jared, I didn't know that you had controlled in Roswell, New Mexico. Let me ask you this. How many UAPs did you control there in and out of the airspace?
Well, not so much anything like that, but it was ironic that Roswell, New Mexico is the site of multiple weather balloon launches. And I'm like, come on, guys, we've already got the reputation. Now you're going to launch weather balloons too. So we were taking a lot of phone calls out there.
Add that to the mix. Nice. Okay, let's start with you here, Jared. What would you like me to put up here? You want to show the LOA?
Yeah, let's start with the graphic real quick.
Right.
We'll do kind of a brief overview of what we're talking about, and then we can go into the letters to airmen that's been released. All this information should be available at your local FBOs and definitely online. If you have any trouble getting a hold of it, talk to your local ATC, and they can get you this stuff too. This is basically a screenshot from ForeFlight. So any of you that utilize ForeFlight should have access to this already, even though the TFR is not active yet. They're showing it as an upcoming TFR. It's basically a 5-mile ring based around the Huntington Beach Pier. It's a little tiny bit south of the pier, but for all intents and purposes, 5 miles around the Huntington Beach Pier is going to be pretty much a no-fly zone from, what are we saying, 9:30 in the morning on Friday, Ken, all the way till about 5 o'clock at night. I think it's 10 o'clock on Saturday, but let's just, better safe than sorry.
That's correct.
An interesting part of this TFR is that even though it's written up to 15,000 feet, if you're flying in the higher altitudes, maybe 7,000 and up, you might actually get a route that takes you through the TFR, and ATC might actually let you go through it because in real time, we give some of that airspace back to ATC. It's just too busy airspace to cut a giant hole and leave it all day. So when we need the 15, we'll use it, and everyone will be escorted out. Well, not escorted, but vectored out of the TFR. And when we can, we'll allow people to use the higher portions of it. So don't think that just because I got vectored in there this morning that I can turn around and fly back through it this afternoon. Unless you're talking to us and we specifically tell you that you're cleared to go through it. It's not a clearance like a Bravo clearance, but you want to make sure that you're talking to us. We, as air traffic controllers, will get in trouble if we put you in that TFR. So the best thing you can do overall is just make sure you're talking to us, whether you're flight following or whatever you're planning on doing. Just let us know, and we'll give you the status of that TFR in real time. The actual specific GPS locations for that are on the letters to airmen, along with the times. If we want to go back to that, Mike, we can look there. This, again, is available at your local FBOs.
Okay,
basically, there we go.
This is the LOA.
Yeah, I won't read it to you word for word. We can all find it and read it ourselves. The basic highlights are the times that we're talking about. So Tuesday is the first day that we have that TFR active. That's for the Thunderbirds to arrive and also for them to do a little bit of site familiarity. They're going to be flying up and down the air show box, marking the things that they need to see in order to perform their show safely. So that's going to be just 2 blocks Tuesday is just the arrival block. That's 1 block from 12:45 to 2:30 local. So just a little bit in the afternoon. Other than that, everything in Southern California should be status quo for your GA needs. Now, Thursday is when they start their kind of a practice run, I guess. They've got 2 blocks on Thursday, nothing going on Wednesday as far as the TFR is concerned. So we got one at 10 o'clock to 11:30 and one from 2 to 3:30. That's going to be a little practice for them in the diamond formation. If you're out and you're flying around, you might get a good show from a distance, of course. But you can see them working in there and practicing and making sure they know when they need to make their turns to do their stuff. The second one, if the Thunderbirds finish early, we've got some other acts that want to utilize that time. So those times are probably going to be pretty close to accurate for that. Oh. And then the Friday, Saturday, Sunday times are the big TFRs. Those are for the actual show. Friday starts at 9:30. The Thunderbirds do a little intro for us on that day. And then Saturday and Sunday from 10 o'clock. And again, all the way to 5 o'clock for those 3 days. I know it gets confusing when you're looking at 4 flights. Sometimes you got 4 or 5 TFRs stacked on top of each other with different times. And like I said, the safest thing, if you're flying in the area anytime next week, is just make sure you're talking to air traffic, and we'll let you know what's available to you and what's not.
Seems like I've heard that advice somewhere else before, to talk to ATC if you're flying around.
We're friendly people, I promise.
No, I know. I had dinner with 1,000 of you last night. You guys are pretty friendly.
There you go. Just below that is the actual GPS waypoint for that 5-mile TFR. Again, for visual purposes, if you think of it as the Huntington Beach Pier, you're going to be just fine. And then there's some contact information if you have legitimate, more detailed questions that you need to ask or find out about. But I think that pretty much covers it. If we want to go back to the graphics, you guys have anything you want to add at this point, or you just want me to keep rolling with procedures?
Yeah, Ken, what do you have to add to that? Meanwhile, I'm going to bring up my 4-flight display. There's a couple things I want to point out on that. So it'll take just a moment. And Ken, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I think Jared covered it pretty well. I don't think he really missed anything on there. So unless you have any particular question, I can.
Okay. Well, this is a 4-flight display of the area. I put just a flight from Orange County to Long Beach in there because I wanted to point out a couple of things. So this is essentially that graphic that we showed you just a moment ago. And you can see, I didn't bring my mouse here, but you can see the yellow TFR there centered on the pier. That's the main airspace. So if you're a 4-flight user, you can tap just inside that box, and you'll get a menu that pops up. And we see, if we look at this airspace, actually we scroll down. Why don't we have the TFR space in there? There it was. I saw it just a moment ago. Here it is. So here's your TFR, and that's a whole bunch of words and a whole bunch of times and a whole bunch of text in here. This is what you'll see. Here's the TFR. Any particular aspect of that, Jared, that you want to point out?
No, that's almost cut straight from the letters to airmen that goes out that we just talked about. So it's the same kind of stuff there.
Okay, and what I did want to point out with this, just a moment here, let me crank up my mouse so you can see where I'm pointing. So you just click inside this box and that menu appears. So I set up this flight here, and if I send that over to flights here and look at this briefing, if you look in the TFR or a flight briefing for today on this, this TFR does not appear in this briefing yet. This is an Outlook briefing that's over a week away at this point. So this data is not in there. So the lesson here is to, right before you go fly, click on there and check your TFRs, check your weather briefing, and get an up-to-date one.
I think now's a good time to talk about, I think almost the Triple Crown winner, but Jared and I think everybody else remembers the helicopter that came up from San Diego a few years ago.
I was going to ask about that. Can you talk about a couple of ways that people have found to violate this airspace in the past? And maybe we can learn something from something that happened in the past.
Well, Jared, do you want to talk about the helicopter? Or?
Well, yeah, sure. We were in the middle of an air show, and we all saw a helicopter out there. We have FSDO on site, and we're talking to the TRACON. They've got the radar feeds, so we immediately knew who it was, and it was a matter of, he departed out of Palomar, wanted to go to Catalina, and like a lot of VFR pilots do, he wanted to take a shorter over the water distance, so he flew up the coast for a ways and just didn't get a briefing, at least not a thorough one as far as we can tell. Didn't know about the TFR, and it was an honest mistake. And mistakes do happen. But when it's something as media worthy as cranking the biggest air show in America to a halt, that's one thing that can affect your GA career. So we all want to be real careful and protect ourselves, and obviously protect the safety of the participants in the air show and the crowd as well. So it was just an honest mistake, and I feel bad for the guy. I mean, we've all made mistakes, but again, that's the reason to talk to us. Even if you don't talk to ATC most of the time, when this TFR is active, it might be a good time just to get that free insurance.
Wait a minute. Wasn't there a guy like the first year that another helicopter that they came up the coast, violated it, I think landed in LA and came right back down like an hour and a half later?
That is true.
That one was before I was on the program. I hadn't heard
yeah,
of that.
That was the very first year. And you know, the people were like, wow, there's sure a lot of people on the beach for a weekend in September. And look at all these jets. This is exciting.
Ken used to have a full head of hair before that first year.
That's right. Yeah.
Another thing I want to point out on this is if you in ForeFlight here, if you click on the airports tab over here and you click on Orange County Airport, you have a NOTAM tab over here. You can look at them. And again, on this particular display at the moment, you don't see this TFR. So pay attention to this letter to airmen. Nate, is this going to get emailed to area airmen?
Email to airmen. I don't think
it's going to be an LTA that goes out.
Yeah, we were looking at doing a fast blast, but that's just for people that are signed up for wings. But then, of course, contacting the local flight schools and the airports and all that. So,
yeah, all of the FBOs should have a copy of it. So at very least, if you're a renter or if you're at the local airport, just check with your local FBO if you have any questions. I had a question. I just started learning how to use ForeFlight, Mike. But if you actually plan to flight in ForeFlight and set your departure time for the time when the TFR is active, does it come up then, or is it just not know about it yet outside of the graphics?
I don't think it knows about it yet, but let's try this. Let's say that we want to do a flight next Thursday at noon, which is, was this during the time of one? It's probably close enough that we would see that. Okay, so we got our little flight plan here. It says there's two issues. It doesn't like that altitude for one thing, and the winds aren't available. But we send this over to flights. And over here it says, okay, we're going to make this flight on the 28th from Orange County to Long Beach at this time. We download a briefing, and let's see what it says. I don't know if it's going to look far enough ahead on these TFRs. So I get the graphical PDF type format briefing. And what do we have? We got departure, Orange County SIDS, approaches. I do not see it in here. So again, this is too far away, like Jared says. As you get closer into the time frame, ForeFlight knows about it, but it really doesn't have a whole lot of information it's going to include in your briefing. And by the way, also, let me interject. I see a couple of questions in the Q&A. Go ahead and use that chat in the Q&A feature. We don't have a whole lot of people on here tonight, so we'll be watching that and we can answer your questions. First question I see is, can I get a copy of the webinar? It is being recorded. I can send out a link to it probably tomorrow, maybe, and it'll be on board for a little while. It's probably going to get deleted in the next week. It's going to be moot after next week anyway. And contact information for the presenters. Nate's answering that one right now. Let me take a look. Okay, yep. Nothing significant there. So let's see, what else we got?
All right, well, if you want to go back to the graphic, Mike, I can talk about individual procedures at the airports and what to expect when you're flying around there, how this actually is going to affect people.
And just make sure, is this the graphic you wanted?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
So for the most part, this air show is going to affect 5 airports. So we'll go through them from least affected to most effective. I would say Torrance and Fullerton are a tie for least. The only differences you're going to experience at those airports is that it will say on their ATIS that there's not going to be any practice approaches. Again, the practice approaches, the fact that they don't go into the TFR is immaterial. It's the fact that ATC on all levels is going to be very busy during this entire week and utilizing routes and seeing conflicts and aircraft that are in different places and different things because of the TFR and some extra vectoring and some extra procedures that are in play. So just to lighten the load on everybody, we're going to be safe and say no practice approaches in all of these 5 airports, but just specifically talking now about Torrance and Fullerton for anytime the TFR is active. Now, once the TFR goes down, you want to fly in the evening, you want to fly Thursday outside of those times that are in the LTA, then you can probably expect practice approaches as you would in a normal day. Now, I know sometimes on a normal day, they might not do them based on staffing, and we don't have any control over that. But as far as the air show is concerned, those two airports will not be doing practice approaches anytime the TFR is up. So that's for those two. The next one would be Long Beach Airport, pretty far outside of the TFR. The difference with Long Beach is their main runway points right at the TFR, runway 30. So we are limited to doing visual approaches only at Long Beach. So first and foremost, again, no practice approaches. That will also hold true for Long Beach Airport. But if you're flying IFR into Long Beach, expect a visual approach to the field, which is not usual for Long Beach. Even in good weather, we usually vector you to the ILS. If you're looking to check that box and get an instrument approach, next week is not going to be a good time to do it. If you're practicing VFR and you want to join right at Gunny intersection, which is 5 Mile Final, and you want to perform the inside part of that approach, and that suits your needs, then we can probably authorize that in VFR conditions, traffic permitting. But as far as getting an actual turn on, outside of Gunny with a heading and all that, it's just not going to be available at Long Beach. The next one would be Los Alamitos. Los Alamitos is, for all practical purposes, going to be closed. I know most of us are civilian or, not at least active Los Al users, so it doesn't affect much. But if there was any normal ops at Los Al that we would expect on a normal day, they're not going to be happening for the most part during the air show, outside of a few specific operations that are authorized. So Los Al is a non-issue, basically.
So I presume the Civil Air Patrol will not be flying their gliders there that weekend.
Not this weekend. No, we might get MedFly. MedFly might still be doing their ops in their King Airs, so we're used to that. One thing of note for Los Al is that is where all of the jet type and military type aircraft, not all the jets, but the military type specifically aircraft, are going to stage out of Los Alamitos for the air show. And when Los Al launches those aircraft for the air show, their instructions are going to be at or below 1,000 feet runway heading, which puts them just outside northwest of the TFR at 1,000 feet. So if you were thinking you'd want to cruise around the Seal Beach Pier at 1,000 feet, you're going to have some rude awakenings with some military traffic in that area. So be cautious of that. They will make a left turn and proceed into the TFR at their discretion, but some of them might choose to go a couple miles offshore. They might be looking for banner tows. There's bird activity. We need to give them all the flexibility they can have to perform safely. So just know that that's the expected flight plan for those fast movers, to come off of runway 22 at Los Al, wind permitting, and then stay at or below 1,000 feet. And then again, we have the airliners going to Long Beach, turning a 5 Mile Final at 1,600 feet. So that entire area northwest of the TFR is going to be fairly saturated with traffic that we are talking to. So if we're not talking to you, it could be a very dangerous place to hang out during that week.
And notice that this is right off the practice areas out here at Queens Gate, Angels Gate. I was on a flight instructor program last week, and I advised them a lot of the Arizona flight instructors will send their students to Southern California for their student cross countries and instrument cross countries. Maybe not such a great weekend to do that this particular weekend.
Well, and those are the pilots that we're most concerned with are the ones that aren't local. Most of the local pilots have heard the buzz. They know this is coming. They're excited. They're probably on the beach watching the planes with me. So it's not the best day to fly anyways. I'd rather be sitting in the sand just for that day at least. But sure. Yeah, the out-of-state pilots and the pilots from Northern California that come down and don't even know this is happening, those are the ones we're really trying to watch out for. So, Okay, moving on from Los Al, those are the four that don't affect us too much. John Wayne is the staging area for all the GA and civilian types that are flying in the air show. So they will be continually launching extras and pit specials, and we got the T-33 jets coming out of there, and the Jet Waco, and all those acts that we talked about and the video showed in the beginning of this session are coming out of John Wayne. So John Wayne normally has departures to the southwest on a 210, 220 heading IFR, or even the VFR ones that go out towards the Huntington Beach Pier. Those are all going to be shut down as far as departures go, because that would go directly into the TFR. So if you're departing John Wayne IFR, you can expect a heading of 175 which will take you out over the water. And then if you're trying to go northwestbound, you're going to be 7-8 miles offshore before TRACON can turn you northwestbound and get you going where you're going, just because of the proximity to that TFR. And again, if you're a VFR pilot that's just trying to miss the TFR, even if you're not in the Class Charlie airspace, if you're right at the edge of that TFR on the southeast side, there's going to be traffic out there. There's going to be jets climbing above you. They could be heavies. We do work, Airbus 300s and 310s off of John Wayne. It's just not a good place to hang out. We also are going to have some large aircraft staging low level over the ocean, 10 miles offshore off John Wayne, a B-52 and a couple of KC-135s. So if you're out there thinking you're avoiding the TFR doing what you're trying to do, which we appreciate, just know that out there off the coast of John Wayne, straight out from the runway basically, is going to be possibly some heavies out there staging for the air show. There's just not a better place to put them. And we put those guys there because there's usually not a lot of VFR traffic out there at that low altitude. But just so people know where stuff is. Now, if you're departing John Wayne, say to the north, and you're expecting to get that vector towards Miles Square Park, I think they call that the orange departure, you're not going to get that departure. Miles Square Park is actually the inbound point for John Wayne, but for this air show, we're utilizing it for air show acts only. So you won't get that departure off of John Wayne. If you're coming off of John Wayne, you're basically going to have to go eastbound VFR until such time as you can reverse course and either get around the side to the north or the south of that TFR. You might get the departure that goes out over kind of towards Signal Peak to the southeast, or you might get the one all the way up towards El Toro. Those departures will still be active. But as far as departures go, there will be no vectors towards the Huntington Beach Pier and no vectors to the northwest. If it's IFR, you just kind of do what you're told and we'll get you where you're going as soon as we can. Just expect a few delays. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the arrivals to John Wayne. A lot of people go in via the Huntington Beach Pier. It's probably the most popular inbound for John Wayne. Obviously, that's not going to work unless you want to be at 10.5 and spiral down. Not the best move. So again, Miles Square Park we talked about is utilized for air show ops, so that will also be unavailable. So if you're coming into John Wayne VFR from the northwest, expect to go north of the TFR or south if you prefer. Your VFR, you can make that choice, but you're going to have to get over to the east side, and then we'll vector you in via Signal Peak. Signal Peak down to the southeast of the field is the only inbound point that we're using for VFRs at John Wayne. If you're lucky and there's room, we might vector you straight in if there's a hole in the arrival flow, but that's also going to be pretty busy with the normal John Wayne IFR traffic. I think in a nutshell, that's what to expect. As far as the local airports, some of the routings that go through that TFR, the Victor 23, Victor 459 IFR routings are going to get a little bit of a jog here or there, or we might push you above 10 if you're on Victor 459. You might have to go all the way to 12 to use that route. But we'll just be moving people around as needed. Again, we're not too concerned with the IFR as long as everybody understands that there might be a little bit of a weird vector or a delay because of the TFR. If you're VFR, that's where it can really affect you because we really got to push you all over to the east side.
So let me ask a question then for Ken. What's going to happen if we end up with a marine layer, say at 1,500 feet overcast? Is that going to shut down the whole show, or will some X continue? What's going to happen?
You just jinxed it, Mike.
I know. I probably shouldn't have asked that question.
That's bad juju. But Ken, you're muted.
Well, and no, this way, see, if I ask the question, the situation will never happen. If I don't ask the question, then it's going to happen.
So maybe you're okay.
Now we can go pretty low and still keep stuff going. The low shows I've been doing air shows all over the country for a long time. I never had a show completely shut out yet. So I want to.
Okay, so the takeaway for area pilots is even if it's a typical, well, it's kind of unusual this time of year, but we've been getting a little bit of marine layer. Even if that happens, this show is still going to go on. So still pay attention.
Yes.
And again, be talking to air traffic because they might be doing 5 and below, and we can let you go up there at 6 or 65 or 7 and play around outside of the Bravo, of course. But the only other point I really wanted to make, Mike, and this is just in general, if this is just like we would give the same advice with Bravo airspace or any other chunk of airspace, you never want to be right on the edge of the TFR. That's where everybody tries to miss the TFR, and it's a really high traffic area. Not only are pilots on our side and the GA side possibly making mistakes and not being exactly where they think they are. The air show acts very possibly can spill out as well. So it's just not I mean, give them a little bit of a buffer. We know you want to get, I mean, if I was flying out there 7 miles away, I'd be looking for the show too. I get it. You know, it's like fireworks. We're drawn to them. But right outside of the TFR, especially with the advent of ForeFlight, it's really easy to get really close. The more accurate you are, well, guess what? Everyone else is more accurate too, and you're really putting a concentrated amount of traffic in a very small space.
Yes, I remember several years ago, Nate Morrissey told me that when with the advent of GPS, people are flying along just an inch or two outside the airspace, and the number of airspace busts increased a bunch. So that's a very real situation. Let me bring
Jared,
up this.
Sorry, Mike, go.
I was going to bring up this other set of graphics that I got. This is what the actual air show box looks like, with color coded there. Ken, can you walk us through that? Is that your thing, or is that Jared's?
Yes, that is something I have to put together. And so, yeah, that is the air show box, 2 nautical miles long, about a half nautical mile wide, 3,000 feet wide, by 12,000 feet long. That size is for the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels requires a show box that big. Just about everybody else can operate a little bit and something smaller. But then you can see the markings we have. We have this a lot of our flyovers and some going non-aerobatic and our smaller aerobatic aircraft fly over this which is marked as the 500-foot line on there. There's with some very large buoys, white buoys that mark that line out there. And then we got marking the show center and what the Thunderbirds called their bomb burst location. There are 2 large vessels, a 100-foot yacht there in the middle and about a 60-footer on the right. They're marking that crowd line. It's what they're looking at to identify that line. And
how do I get a seat on that yacht?
Now, yeah, right.
I think that might be a good place to watch the show from.
Oh, and indeed, I'd like to be out there too. I never had that opportunity, but that's got to be a great vantage point right there. And of course, boats surround this. We have a buoy. You can see where the buoys mark all around the perimeter of the box also. But there's so many boats out there, hundreds, if not some thousands of boats out there surrounding that really make a great visual reference. You can to mark the box there.
And so if you are not planning on flying, but maybe you're planning on watching this from a boat, you're not going to be allowed inside this red box. Is that right?
That's correct. That's totally kept completely sterile in there. And yep, that's where all of our aerobatics take place, within that sterile area there. And
so excellent.
If anybody wanders out there, we have to shut it down. But
I think this is a public service announcement, but notice where the pier is. So show center, on the screen is to the left. So for those of you heading out to the beach, that's the side to be on.
Yeah, you don't want to be north of the pier.
Yeah, show center is directly in front of the Hilton waterfront hotel, between the 2 towers there.
All right.
And what else do we point out on there? That's it for them.
Okay, so here's the big top-down view with the actual show box. And what's the meaning of the magenta X on there?
Oh, the Ken? Magenta. I didn't point that out. That's the for the jet teams for Thunderbirds, Blue Angels, they asked that those be put on there. That's their run-in lines that they follow. They want them marked on there where it'll be, and then we do have corner markers marked on there as well. So when they're coming across, doing like their the dedication pass, photo pass, banana pass, as they call it, they will use these as more commonly known, but they'll use these corner markers as reference to make their turns out there, and just looking at what they're lining up on out there. And so when they're out there, when the team Thunderbirds come in on Tuesday, they'll be out there identifying those lines and flying those and just getting familiar.
Okay, let's look at the next page then. This is the top-down view. This is where the TFR is that we saw earlier, was this 5-mile radius orange circle with the actual show box depicted right in the middle of it. So that's how that's all oriented. And I guess, yeah, it's a Google Earth view. So you can see John Wayne Airport, you can see Los Alamitos. It didn't mark the other ones, but you can see the Pier Complex. And like Jared was saying a moment ago, that's, not a long way outside this circle. And anybody who can't be there, if they're trying to work their way around, that airspace just outside that circle is going to be very busy. It's not a place I'd be comfortable flying this particular weekend, I don't think.
I got a question on that. Jared, you might have brought that up, but I mean, we know practice approaches and stuff like that, but will VFR flight following be limited as well?
That'll be workload permitting, just as it always is, but we would much prefer to talk to anyone that's concerned about where they might be or isn't familiar with the times. We would always rather talk to the pilots. So VFR flight following should be as available as it is on a workload permitting basis, which is a standard rule anyways. Most of the time, I don't foresee any issues with people getting VFR flight following. Now, maybe if it gets really busy and you're just doing spins out over the ocean over patter where you're not a factor, then maybe we'll cancel the flight following for some of those and give it to the people that might be in closer proximity to TFR. But we don't have any plans to officially limit flight following, and we would prefer that you guys call us like we've said.
Is there any plan to have extra staffing at SCT for the weekend?
We will staff at this point, we schedule as many controllers on a normal day as we have. So we don't have any extra controllers to call in. But people know how important this show is, and we hope that we can get a maximum number of controllers in at all the facilities to try and help out. It's kind of, in a weird way, it's kind of fun to work it, from the controller side. It can be a little hectic and a little stressful, but there's a little extra fun to it as compared to a normal day. So we'll try and get everybody there.
Sure. Well, it's something a little bit different, a little unusual from your normal operations. It's kind of challenging and fun to do that, I could imagine. Maybe I should have been a controller.
I did want to make mention of something while we're looking at this TFR. There are going to be some things to take note of outside of the TFR time. On Wednesday, where there's no TFR, we will have some parachute jumps to the beach between noon and 1700. Probably be two jumps during that 5-hour window there. The Navy leapfrogs doing that, and they'll have another one the following morning, probably between 7 and 9 on Thursday morning. They'll be doing a parachute jump too, probably somewhere from I guess they're going to be jumping 6,000 to 8,000 feet, something like that. Unless you've heard something different from them there, Jared.
I have not, so that sounds fine to me.
So that'll be outside the normal TFR times, but I'm hopeful. I suspect that SCT will be aware of this and on the same page with them. So again, we can't say this enough. Call SoCal TRACON for flight following. They'll know what's going on.
Yes. And that's a good point that Ken's bringing up, is there's actually a lot of stuff, not just the parachute jumps that happen outside of TFR times. I know we talked a little bit before we went live, Mike, but TFRs are kind of hard to come by. I mean, they're a big influence on GA pilots, and we try to use them as minimally as possible. So we get all these requests from airshow acts that want the moon and the stars, and we have to say, well, this is Southern California, this is what we can offer, and it's kind of a bit of a give and take on what they can get. So at this point, anyone that wants to do anything, and now we've established that these are going to be the TFRs, they're going to do that stuff outside of the TFR times. We've got photo ops where people are going to be flying up and down the coast, doing air-to-air photos with each other. They could even have the entire jet teams doing that kind of stuff. And then because of the nature of those ops happening outside of the TFR, we get the ability, and the pilots get the moxie to try and be really flexible. We might get a call 3 hours before they want to do it, and they're like, hey, can we do it? And we can't really tell them no. All we can do is, from the air traffic side, work them and try to make it as safe an operation as possible. So this stuff outside of the TFR, it's fluid. We're flexible with it. It could change last minute. There's just no telling what's going to go on and when. So have your head on a swivel. And if you're going to fly in the area anytime from Tuesday to Sunday, you just want to make sure you're looking, and there could be some weird stuff going on. You know?
Yeah. I think did we talk about this already? You were telling me about somebody wanted to go do a fly past the Hollywood sign or Griffith Park or something. And
we did that all basically every year. The jet teams like to go get their media shots, and they want to fly all over Southern California, and they can. We work them just like any other traffic, but they move a little faster and they're a little bigger. So there will be some
And
strange stuff going on, but it's fun to watch too. So
when one of these military teams, let's say the Thunderbirds, are doing their thing, are they obeying the 250 knots below 10 or the 200 knots below the class Bravo, or are they open season?
Oh,
Oh, you got
You're
muted,
mute,
Jared.
Jared.
oh, sorry about that. I clicked it the wrong direction. Yeah, they're flying within the regs when they do that stuff, and most of
Okay,
the time when they're doing photo passes and things, they want to be going slow anyways. They've
sure.
usually got a photo plane that can't keep up with them if they do better than 180
Hmm.
knots anyways. So they're out there
Okay.
taking their time, getting all the pictures they can get, and they're a big formation. But it could just be one of the civilians. It could be an extra out there with one photo ship, and that might be a little harder to see. So.
Hmm.
Exactly right.
All right, let's see. And that again, this is the sectional chart or tack chart with the TFR overlaid and then the aerobatic box on it. Let's see. Yeah, we do have one question about if the government shuts down on Saturday, is the show going to go on Sunday? That's probably a Ken question.
Well, that's what I understand. And I've been at one show before where we went through that on a weekend like that, and the show did continue. Everything continued. So I'm hoping it goes the same
We'll cross our fingers.
this
We'll have to
time
go
too.
tactical with that one. So.
Nobody's been calling us to give us any warnings or anything. So I'm
Okay.
just going with that.
Let's see. And I think that's all the questions I see at the moment. Let's see. Anything else we've got you want to talk about, Ken? No, what's coming up for next year? You talked about you start these things about 2.5 years out, so you must have something in mind in your back pocket for next year. What's coming
Well,
up?
you'll. I mean, already out there, you can see on their schedule the Thunderbirds are with us again next year, but there'll be plenty more to announce. I can't really go through all that, but it's
Oh,
going to be a great lineup. I'll tell you, next year I can already see it coming together. It's gonna, but what I did want to say though is I just I do appreciate what a big disruption this is in the airspace there, and I've flown myself many hours in that airspace around there, and I just know it's a huge disruption. I really appreciate you making the effort and doing what it takes to accommodate all this. I hope you can get out and see the show, and I really hope I hope you'll appreciate that. I think the show brings aviation to so many people, thousands of people that have never been to an air show before, don't know anything about it, and they come out and they're just awed by it, and they become supporters of aviation and some aviators themselves. So, I think it's a good thing for the whole aviation community. I hope you do too, and I hope you'll.
hey
So,
Ken,
so,
I want to let's clear up some numbers. Mike's saying the biggest air show west of the Mississippi, but heard by attendance, it's the largest in the nation.
It is the
So,
largest in North America by attendance, and it could be. I haven't found a bigger attendance anywhere, really.
so
wow.
what were some of the top stats in the previous years? Hasn't there been
Uh,
like
of
go?
numbers,
Yeah.
attendance numbers. I mean, it's on the beach itself. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly what the numbers are. I think it's probably. I think we probably get around 800,000 probably on the beach itself. Overall inflow to the city of Huntington Beach, it's been measured as being somewhere over the 3 days, 3 million inflow to the city of Huntington Beach during that time over the weekend. So
So
and so many people are watching from balconies and everywhere else, but that's just talking about people coming into the venue and stuff. I assume it's somewhere around 800,000.
And
so like
last year they actually broadcast on Hulu, so who knows how many millions of people that reached as well. I mean,
Exactly right.
in a GA world where they're trying to close airports here and there, I mean, this is our outreach. This is how we get the young kids involved and interested and inspired, and people in the community appreciate the economic activity and they like the show too. I think it's super important for aviation in general to take the sacrifices to have these kinds of shows and get that out there.
Right,
I,
exactly. On Hulu, it was by far their biggest ever streamed event. Their audience on
Wow.
more than double anything else they'd ever done.
That's impressive.
well, we have
Imagine.
Ken, who's a legit air show professional, but I feel Mike and I are amateur professionals in visiting air shows across the nation. But I think personally, this is by far one of the best air shows ever. Just the lineup, but being on the beach, being so close to it, it's just such a fun event. This isn't a paid announcement, but I'm telling you, go down there, people. It's like, even like if you've been to Oshkosh, that's great. Totally different deal, but it's so close, and you're not on a hot tarmac like Miramar. And I think Miramar is an awesome show. They're all awesome shows, but this beats it. Bring your chair, bring your umbrella, just hang out for the day. Oh, and I'll always bring ear protection. That's what I tell people, because it's
well,
loud.
This year in particular, it's going to be a loud one.
Well, every air show is different, and some are more differenter than other air shows. And this is certainly a differenter air show, I think. So, for sure. In fact, I'd like to put a plug in. I would love to see the Red Arrows again, the English demonstration team. Those guys were amazing. Probably one of the best demonstration team flights I've seen. And one of Nate's sons took what is still to me one of the most amazing air show photographs I've ever seen. I love that picture.
All right. Yeah, we stay in contact with them, and they do want to come back. That's for certain.
So I know this isn't really your area of the show, Ken, but do you want to talk a little bit about what's there to see on the beach besides the air show?
Let's see. There's so much.
Are you familiar with that at all?
So much. I mean, we do have exhibits. I don't get to get out and see so much of it's there. We'd have plenty of exhibits down in the Pier Plaza area of the around the pier. We have lots of recruiting assets. That's for sure coming to the show. Big recruiting show for military of all branches. Bring out all they've got for this. And of course, there's plenty of food options. The whole hospitality set up on the beach, and all the. I mean, there's all kind of levels of if you want to buy the hospitality or come onto the beach and buy a ticket there. There's just it's a real value. I mean, it's not trying to make a commercial out of it either, but it's for value wise for what you get for going to events. It's amazing.
Well, I thought I saw something about a boat race around Catalina. What's that?
Oh yeah,
about?
we do have we do have Ocean Cup as well. It's going to kick off rather early in the morning. That's another one I don't really get to see because I'm so involved with the air ops portion. But yeah, some really high end boats doing this race around Catalina. So yeah, they'll kick it off actually at 6:30 in the morning is when they're going to kick off that race. And they do a world record run each time. I think they've set a new world record on each one.
Wow.
So yeah, they'll be kicking that off. And
I won't be there for a 6:30 launch. No offense for the boats, but
well, that's fun too, because when they're done racing, they go and park all the boats in the main drag of Huntington Beach. So you're out there walking, looking at restaurants and multi-million-dollar jet race boats instead of whatever else is normally parked there. So it's fun to go up and talk to those I call them pilots, but operators. I don't know what you captains, I guess, right? I'm an
skipper
guy, but they're fun to talk to.
How about a skipper?
They definitely are high performance machines for sure. So
we do have a question though for Ken associated with this. A question comes in about why does it take 2 years to put a show together? What are the first things you have to do 2.5 years out?
2.5 years out is really the request to military, to all the DoD requests that need to go in defense for the jet teams, for Blue Angels, Thunderbirds particularly, but also for all the single ship demos. Like this year we've got every one of the Navy demos, the F-35, the F-35 Super Hornet, Growlers. That's from the Navy. Then for Air Force, you got all their single ship demos. You got F-22, F-35, which we have in the show this year, both of those. And there's also F-16 and A-10. We always request them all, and then it's just all the follow-up with all the teams as well, and then with all the just performers, all the individual performers, the civilian performers, and it's just
let's not forget about the city.
I'm not even talking about FAA and the city and everything else. I'm just talking about the air ops piece. But I mean, as far as working it with the city and the approvals and everything else, that's a whole nother matter. But that gets planned well in advance too.
So Nate, do you feel like talking about how the FAA is involved with this? I know a lot of people have opinions about the FAA, but it's such a critical part of putting on a show like this to make sure everything operates safely and within the rules. How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously people like Ken, start the conversations, but in the beginning, it's mostly an air traffic function. Would this work? And,
Exactly.
and, that's where, like Jared at SoCal, it's like, okay, how would this work? Could this work with with the crazy amount of traffic we have? And then, as things, they'll keep the FSDOs in the loop. We're in the loop, but we're not the bigger person at the table until it gets more into the planning, and then, with the waivers and all that, and the box, and then the FSDO starts coming in and seeing what's going on and working as a team with everybody.
Right. There is that large number of FARs that have to be waived for an air show to happen, and there's quite a process to that.
How many waivers are there, let's say, for this exhibit?
How many regulations are waived? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
That's I never counted them, but
that's a good question. The laundry list.
I guess what would you guess? 60 of them? Probably 60 or so.
Start at 91.1 and end at 91.5.
50, 60, I don't know what it is, but it's a good number. And then there's jump authorizations. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway.
And then, with all the new technology coming out, like one year they had a jetpack there.
Right.
The eVTOL stuff. And it's like, how do we
That's true. That's a good point. First things, that's never been done with it, where we had the jetpack, actually 2 jetpacks racing each other for the first time. And then we had the Blackfly last year, and they're going to be back again this year. That's it. That eVTOL aircraft is going to take off right from Show Center and return there. I mean, to work that out. And uncharted territory.
I'm just hoping no military jets go missing.
Oh, right. I know. We got 2 F-35s. Yeah, we skipped the F-35B though, so we got the A and the C. So maybe we're okay.
That's brutal, Nate. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Just kidding.
I know. We did get a note from Hussam here, who's a student pilot. He just says, no questions, but he just wanted to say thank you so much for keeping him safe up there. He's a student pilot, and he appreciates all the work you do. I suspect he's mostly aimed at Jared there, but everybody here, well, except me, I don't do anything with student pilots these days. But it's I love seeing this collaboration, this communication. Hey, somebody's got a pie in the sky wild idea to do something. How do we make it work? And we can make it work. I think that's really impressive.
Yeah, well, and it takes a lot of people, and we were all student pilots once. So
that's exactly right.
But I would say for all the student pilots on there too, let's say your instructor's like, oh yeah, we got these lessons planned next week. It's like, I would call them, call them, go over this TFR with them, because I don't know, obviously it's going to depend on what you're trying to do, next week.
Well, I guess that's a good point too, is if you do want to do a flight lesson next week, or you just want to go fly in GA, like where are the places to go? So I would say, if you're looking for practice approaches and things, it's going to be the more inland airports. You go to Chino and Corona and anything north of John Wayne and Fullerton, or down into in San Diego area. They just had the Miramar Air Show, so they might be a little busy with all the people that couldn't fly last week. But I would say the easiest place for, if you're stationed at Long Beach or Fullerton or Torrance and you want to get some flight time in and actually do some approaches, or find some open airspace that's not super busy to practice your stuff, I'd say head up towards, north of Fullerton, northeast of Fullerton, into that area, and see how those controllers are handling it up there.
Oh, interesting question just popped up here. What about drone flights? Have there ever been any drones used in this air show?
Yes, we have had drones to this point. Actually, we were going to go bigger with drones this year, and we've just had to back off a little bit just because we're running out of time. But yes, we have said some, and wait for next year. I think we're going to be doing some big things with drones. But so far, what we've been using for really low level, just parallel to the crowd, getting some really great crowd shots, up close crowd video that's just been amazing. So that's mainly what we've used it for. But this year, actually, we don't have any drone stuff going on.
And for all of you that are going to be attending, leave your DJI Mavics at home.
Exactly.
All over. This is a no drone zone.
Yeah, we
unfortunately, how it works is, the people at the air show, security, there's so many people, police, fire, EM, emergency, all that. But it's like, if we see a drone, they'll let people, the command booth, no, and then they'll relay it down to show center. And it's like, do we need to call off the performers? What's going on? So just leave that stuff at home, but
There's a time and a place, and this is not the time and it's not the place.
no.
And if you do it, it will get detected because we do
Yeah.
have some drone detection in a big way going on there.
And and Guy, just on that with the drones, it's like they're not messing around. Like at SoFi Stadium during the Super Bowl. I mean, the FBI was there with their drone detection stuff, and but they're not messing around at all. And it's interesting to say the least. So leave the drones at home.
Yeah, it's one thing to be a nuisance to the crowd or the people who are putting on the show, but it's a danger to the aircraft that are flying around. So we don't want to find out what happens. Let's see. That is about all I see here.
Hey, one more thing, Mike. I know we're almost up, but Jared, if you don't mind, I always like to give the public service announcement on if you're flying, get on flight following. SoCal wants you to be on flight following. It helps out. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but for all the people that love to squawk 1200 and feel like you're a free bird, do it somewhere else, not here in the basin.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo the same sentiment. We talk about it all the time with all the outreach that we do. We would much rather be talking to you guys. We're not there to take you off of what you're trying to do unless it's something unsafe or something that's going to get you in trouble, and a corollary to get ourselves in trouble as well. So we're there to keep you safe. We're there to keep you in an area. If you're trying to do maneuvers, we've got radar. We can suggest a place where there's not a lot of traffic. If you're trying to get a certain thing done and you didn't know that Long Beach isn't accepting approaches, we can point you to an airport that is. Like, we can give you those things in real time. And again, because of the fluidity of this type of an operation, we're about the only people that really know what's going on in real time, outside of the guys on the ground in Ken and all them, but it's pretty hard to talk to them from your Cessna.
And so, Jared, when this show is going on, you are actually physically on the beach there in Huntington Beach, and you've got a hotline right to the control center in SCT. How does that immediate liaison work?
Yeah, my main job, and my partner Mike Barton, who's also on this call, is to give some of that airspace back to air traffic when we can. So we're in real time. We're negotiating airspace and making sure that we have what we need for the safety of the air show, but then that we're not wasting airspace for the GA public and the carriers and the other users of the airspace. And then also we're there to look for people that are in the TFR that aren't supposed to be there, and we're looking for drones and kites and anything else that's unsafe in the area. And it takes everybody's eyes to make sure that everything's safe, and that's pretty much that's our deal out there.
And I will, yeah, Jared, you and the Tracon team do an amazing job for us. I just want to also mention our air bosses that really are talking with our performers, and all. We have an air boss team of 3 air bosses. It's Wayne Boggs, really the best of the best out there. Wayne and Ray Shaw, who also air bosses the Miramar show. But what Ray Shaw is on our team, along with Chris Tibbetts, who's an air boss from Australia, is joining us as well. So all 3 of them are going to be out there working, and it really works well to have a team of those bosses monitoring what's going on.
So the planning doesn't stop when the show starts. You're still going. And I will give a plug here. If you like working with SCT or ATC in general, you want to find out what they do, I would invite you to come to Fullerton Airport on October 17th. About once a year, we have at least one controller from SoCal Tracon comes up in a series I've been calling the Voices in Your Head set. So come on over. It may be Jared, it may be Rob Reddick or one of the others from the team there. But if you want to get face-to-face in person with an air traffic controller, get your questions answered about the services they provide that you have already paid for. These are free services, and they work for you, and they really want to talk to you. They want you to ask them questions. Come on out to Fullerton on the 17th and do that.
Sounds great.
Great.
Let's see. That's about all I've got. Any final comments here? Ken, Nate, Jared, what do you got?
Well, Mike, as always, I want to thank you for all the work you do as a volunteer for the FAA safety team and all these amazing presentations you put on. And then we're going to send out Ken's cell phone number to get the 50% off coupons to the chalets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
But thanks, and Jared, thanks. As a FSDO, we love working with SoCal and preaching the word of get on flight following and stuff like that. So we always appreciate all the help.
Absolutely.
Oh, one last question came in here, Ken. How much do the Thunderbirds charge to perform?
They don't charge anything to perform.
Again,
actually, as of now, there was actually a fee up until like a year and a half ago. The Thunderbirds stopped, and Thunderbirds and Blue Angels both charge, and it had been the same for years and years. It was always $12,000 each year. You had to write them a check for $12,000. But then, in addition to that, we provide them with their rental cars and and all their ground support equipment, which is actually quite a task, putting all their ground support equipment for their aircraft and providing it, when at least coordinating that and getting out on site all the transportation. So there are costs involved, but and smoke oil for them as well. Thunderbirds will use 26 drums of smoke oil, so there's the cost with that, and so that's that. But there's no fee with Thunderbirds anymore.
Yeah, we all pay for them.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Well, if that's all we've got, then gentlemen, thank you so much. I really enjoyed doing this show with you guys tonight, and looking forward to the show on the beach too. I've been able to attend a couple of years in the past. I'm hoping to get down there again this year. I thank you all for the work you do to make this happen and to do all this planning ahead of time so that on the day it proceeds as seamlessly and painlessly to those of us in the GA community as it can. And give us a reason to park the airplane for the day and go down to the beach and enjoy a nice show. So thanks so much for that. I hope to see each one of you guys later at events around the area, and keep in touch. Thanks again, everybody, for coming tonight, and good night. We'll see you at the next one.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks.